Here we cover the Arthropods class Crustacea. About 65,000 species in this class, so pretty darn abundant. Most of those are marine, including the crabs, shrimps, lobsters, barnacles. Some are freshwater, like the crawfish and the copepods. A smaller number are terrestrial, the pale bugs and the sand fleas. Most have either 2 or 3 tagmata. 3 tagmata would be a head, a thorax, and an abdomen, though they can fuse into a cephalothorax plus an abdomen. The appendages would occur on the abdomen and the thorax. And we have 2 pairs of antennae on these organisms as well for sensation. Most of these appendages are going to be biramous, meaning that they consist of 2 branches, a twofer situation. We get 2 appendages for every one. Many crustaceans have a thick protective carapace that covers the thorax and the abdomen. Lobsters, shrimp, crawfish, and crab all exhibit this trait. All crustaceans but barnacles are gonochoric, meaning they have 2 separate sexes, because most crustaceans, excluding the barnacles, are very motile. They're very active, so they have no problem finding partners. Barnacles are unique among the crustaceans in being very sessile. They secrete a very fast-curing cement-like substance, which is one of nature's strongest glues that allows them to stick to substrates like rocks or wood or even other organisms like whales. Because they are stuck in place, barnacles are hermaphroditic. They have a harder time moving around to find partners. And fun fact, they have the longest penis in the animal kingdom relative to size. These are barnacles up here, stuck onto a rock. A couple other examples of crustaceans here, the copepod and the peelbug or isopod. These are one of those rare terrestrial crustaceans. This figure from your book shows the crustacean body plan. So here we have a cephalothorax versus abdomen. That carapace, which I guess is not labeled here, but covers that whole cephalothorax. We have a bunch of appendages that are used for locomotion, from the walking legs to the swimmerets to the telson and the uropod, these paddle-like appendages back here. 2 pairs of antennae. These are the anterior-most appendages that are used for sensation. Here's some more examples of crustaceans. The blue crab shows a nice carapace for its cephalothorax. Crawfish, really good example, delicious example of a crustacean. The mantis shrimp up here to, that happened, to the right, this is one of the fastest organisms. It's capable of delivering this really quick punch that breaks shells and dismembers the prey of the mantis shrimp. And they also are able to see more wavelengths than any other organism. So pretty cool little crustacean there. On the bottom, there's some more barnacles. These are gooseneck barnacles. You can actually see the structure of the organism a little bit better here with the cirri that it uses to filter feed. Class Hexapoda. These are the insects. Hexapoda literally means 6 legs, so that is a characteristic that they all share. This is by far the largest group of animals by number of species as well as number of individuals. They are in every habitat, excluding a few marine habitats. Hexapods include more than half of all named animal species. And most hexapods aren't named, so that's really saying a lot. Some familiar insects or hexapods are beetles, flies, moths and butterflies, termites, bees and wasps, ants, bugs, fleas, right? Just to name a few. All hexapods have 3 body regions, a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. The thorax has 3 segments, each with a pair of legs, though the larval form may not have legs. For example, flies. Right? A fly has legs, but the larval form, the maggot, does not. And this thorax may also have 1 or 2 pairs of wings. Some have secondarily lost their wings, like the flea, and some, like silverfish, never had wings to begin with. Most insects have compound eyes and other sensory receptors to detect sounds, chemicals like pheromones, which are very important for communication in insects. Table 34.2 in your text shows a whole bunch of different orders. These are the most specious up here. So beetles, Coleoptera clocks in at the most species, but Diptera, the flies, Lepidoptera, butterflies and moths, Hymenoptera, bees, wasps, and ants are also pretty large. Hemiptera and Homoptera, these are true bugs and leaf hoppers. Orthoptera are our grasshoppers and crickets, and these are really the big players here when it comes to numbers of species. And here's some more examples of some of those large species of insects. Insect mouthparts are very complex. They all have the same basic structure, but they've been heavily modified to reflect the feeding habit, the feeding strategy of the particular species. So just a collection of different mouthparts here. Mosquito mouthpart is really complex. It's designed for piercing and sucking. Butterfly has a very long sucking proboscis mouthpart, and then the fly has a more sopping mouthpart for soaking up liquid. And that's just 3 examples. The more you look at, the more insects you look at, the more diversity you see here. Anything from chewing to gnawing to cutting is also present within this group of organisms. Many insects undergo some type of metamorphosis. Metamorphosis comes from the Greek word to transform. It's the process by which organisms develop after birth. There are 2 types of metamorphosis that can occur. Simple, also known as incomplete metamorphosis, is where the larva, the young, looks very similar to the adult, and it acts very similarly too. It basically looks and acts like a miniature adult. So same food, same habitat as the adult. Good examples of organisms that go through simple metamorphosis are crickets, lice, cockroaches, termites. Complete metamorphosis is what butterflies go through. So this is really what you think of when you hear that word metamorphosis. Also beetles, bees, ants, fleas, mosquitoes and flies, moths go through this complete metamorphosis. Here we have the egg turning into a larva, which then turns into a pupa, which then turns into a distinct adult. The immature larvae are more worm-like. Oftentimes they lack legs. They eat a whole heck of a lot, several times their body weight, and that's going to fuel their rapid growth. After going through this larval stage, they will go through a resting stage, a pupa or a chrysalis, where they will stop eating and moving, and then go through a final molt and turn into an adult form with a different morphology, diet, and habitat compared to the larva. This right here is a good example of complete metamorphosis as seen by a mosquito, right? So this is our mosquito larva. It's aquatic. It breathes through this tube here that connects to the surface of the water, swims around. This is why people say don't leave standing water out if you don't want mosquitoes, because you get a bunch of these larvae. And after it goes through a pupa stage where it's a little curled up organism, it will emerge at the surface of the water as the mosquito we all know and love. Last class here is class Myriapoda. These are centipedes and millipedes, which are united by having a head plus numerous similar segments. But other than that, they are quite different. The centipede has 1 pair of appendages per segment, usually has anywhere from 30 to 100 pairs of legs. They are carnivorous, so they have poisonous fangs, which you can see here. Well, kind of hard to see, but they have poisonous fangs that they use in order to subdue and eat insects or other prey, sometimes vertebrates. The bite is not fatal to humans, however. To facilitate this lifestyle, centipedes are very quick. They have well-developed eyes and forward-facing mouth parts. Versus the millipede over here on your right, these have 2 pairs of appendages per segment, usually over 100 at least legs, maybe up to 750 or so. These guys are herbivores. They eat decaying vegetation. They have a complex gland that produces a fluid in defense, or maybe even something like cyanide, which causes discoloration, itching, blisters. Right? But that's just used for defense because they are vegetarians. Right? They are herbivores. To facilitate that lifestyle, they usually are more slower moving. They have a rounded, blunt, more downturned head. So quite different. And this concludes our material on the protostomes.